All right, we're up. This is the Our Town with Troy By, North Alabama's podcast. And sitting across from me is a guest that I've wanted to have on for a long time. I think at one point, Taylor Reed, middle name Dwayne, right?
That's right.
Is the operator, not necessarily the founder of ShowerUp, and we'll get into that, a nonprofit here in Huntsville. But I guess I discovered you when I've done a lot of episodes and a lot of episodes with nonprofits. And I think I came across you when I interviewed, what's her name? Last name Brown. She just moved to California. Jessica. Yeah. When she was at First Stop.
Correct.
And I did a series of episodes, I guess, where it was like the National Children's Advocacy Center, First Stop, Wellstone, Thrive, Alabama. And, you know, it's amazing to me I've been here 4.5 years now, but through this show, learning about just the great organizations that are here, how they got started, who the people are that founded it, that may be driving it today, and became aware of ShowerUp. And then at some point, I try to remember, you won, like I tried to win, do like a trivia thing or something.
I won a hat and a
You
sticker.
won a hat.
Yeah, it's been sitting on my desk ever since.
And I brought it to your house.
Yeah.
Because you live like up on Montesano.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And anyway, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I kind of started putting two and two together. Like, this is a guy that runs ShowerUp. And then I can't remember. I tried to have you on, and I don't know. Usually it's on me, like I'm traveling or something for my normal job. And then most recently, it's part of the Interfaith Council that I'm a part of. They had invited you in as a guest on our monthly Saturday meeting over here at Madison.
Right.
Library, and you were able to give a briefing, if you will, on ShowerUp.
Yeah.
And I then kind of reoccurred in my mind, I need to have Taylor on the show. So I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, good to be here and glad to share my story, share ShowerUp story, and talk back and forth.
And you're a native of this area.
I grew up, was born in Huntsville Hospital and had my kid in Huntsville Hospital, so been here my whole life.
How old's your kid?
He's 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's his name?
His name's Eli.
Eli. E-L-Y?
E-L-I.
E-L-I. Okay. I guess you can go either way in that spelling.
I guess
right?
you can. Yeah, he knows how to spell it too. He's fixed on spelling. And we picked an easy word, so it worked for him.
Oh, really? That's funny. At church, I ran into this kid yesterday, and he might have been around 2, and I wasn't sure. Like, I have a grandson who's 2, and he's babbling, but 2.5-year-olds. At some point, they form words.
Right.
But I was like, "Hey, what's your name?" And he said, and it was hard to understand. Like, he said Mackie. And then his mom's like, well, his name's Mac, and they call him Mackie. But, like, just him trying to get out Mackie, yeah. he's getting there. So let's see. And then you went to UAH.
Right, yep.
But let's step back. If you had sent it to me, I apologize. What happens with me is I'll read through the email of the questions I just asked guests, but then I could just get so involved in, like, in this case, like ShowerUp and looking at your Instagram and your Facebook, and then I sometimes forget details that I had stepped over. But did you go to Huntsville High?
I went to Sparkman High. So I grew up in Harvest.
Okay.
Said it was Huntsville back then because nobody knew Huntsville or Harvest.
Yeah.
As we've grown. But I went to Sparkman High School, and then after that, UAH.
Were you there when they built that, like the freshman campus or whatever?
The Sparkman 9th grade academy. So I was the second class in that school. So the building was almost new. They're still working some kinks out, but I was the second class to go through that building.
So you got to, okay. Is that pretty impressive facility?
Pretty neat. I remember the lunchroom. So they had a section just for pizza. So if you wanted pizza every day, you could go there. You had the typical lunch. Then you had like a cookie bar. And then I think there was a mozzarella cheese sticks place. And so I would always get the main lunch. Then I'd go back for pizza and cookies. And I got it all. So
yeah, I remember I grew up in Virginia, but like at some point there was a change, and at least in that county, where they're like, hey, we need to step up our game and give more stuff, to the students. And we went crazy when we got like high C. You could get like a fruit punch or a grape punch, and a separate. It was like a separate area from where you got your main food.
Right. Yeah,
so you eat your main food, and then you go up like to the snack stand.
Right. It's like a food court in a mall.
Well, ours wasn't that nice,
okay.
but yeah, same concept, right?
Right.
That was kind of neat. Yeah, when I mentioned that because when I came here at the end of September of 21 to the National Cyber Summit, I had no idea I was going to move here like 2 months later. But I came, I was really impressed. I drove around, and one of the first things I did was go up into the Harvest area.
Okay.
and went by Sparkman High School. And I was like, wow, this is neat.
Yeah.
And then it's just overwhelming. My wife's like, well, what kind of area do you like? Like, I don't know. I like them all, and like went up in that area. And then I don't know, I was at Madison, I was in Huntsville, and never really went over the mountain. And there was nothing against going to like Owens Crossroad, but I had already been a mega commuter in Virginia. And I wasn't exactly sure with when the company moved me here, was I going to have to be at the Arsenal every day or just outside the Arsenal? And I have already done that drive of like,
Didn't want to do it again.
and I was like, I can't. And I wanted to live near the airport for once in my life.
Right.
So
here you are.
Here I am. So let's see. So you did your elementary, middle school and all that, right?
Yep. Same, I guess same house really until a tornado 2011 came through.
Right.
So we were in Anderson Hills, mile and a half from Sparkman High School, and our house got wiped out by a tornado. And so we actually moved into an apartment out in Madison. I think it took 9 months to build the house back. So,
Really?
We had our house was flattened and completely destroyed. So all they had to do was sweep it away, really just bulldoze it and start fresh. Some of those other houses that had to argue with insurance companies and do a bunch of mess, but ours was flattened. So it was an easy 9 months after the tornado, we moved in. And it was actually the day of the national championship when Alabama won. I guess it would have been 2001 season.
Wow.
Or 2011 season.
2011
so
season.
It's January 2012. We didn't even have our furniture yet, but the house was built. And so we got a TV sitting on the floor, and we watched the Alabama game. That was our kind of coming home. So I'll never forget that.
So some of the other homes maybe had partial damage, so they could live in it.
They could. Well, they couldn't really live in it, but it was arguing with insurance companies of, can you rebuild or can you repair or do you have to start from scratch? So there was no argument in ours.
Well, if you don't mind, can we talk about that day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so how old when that happened?
So I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
So that really changed my whole trajectory of everything. If I wouldn't be where I am today without my experiences and from that day. So,
what day of the week was it? Do you remember?
I believe it was a Wednesday,
Okay.
or was it a Friday? So the day of the week.
Sure.
That was a blur. Honestly, that day, for the next 2 weeks of my life, we were living in my aunt's house out in Madison. So we were staying there and traveling back and forth to the disaster zone, digging through the rubble, just looking for stuff. So that was a 2 week blur.
What time of day did the tornado come through?
So it actually came through after school, and so it ended up hitting, I think it was around 4 o'clock or so. School knew it was going to get bad. Everybody knew the tornadoes were coming, and I actually decided that I was not going to go home, and I was going to go to my friend's house. And so because of that, I was outside at my friend's house watching the storm come in, and my sister and mom and dad were home at our house that got blown away. So if I was there, nobody knows what would have happened because they wouldn't have fit in that little bathroom, little powder bath they shoved in there, shut the door, and that's how they survived. It was really God's how they survived, but the place they hid out saved them.
So room for 3, but maybe not 4.
Maybe not 4. So one of us would have been not there, would have chose a different place to be.
And were you all prepared in the sense of if you only have a quick time to react, we're going to the bathroom, or was it just
definitely not prepared? Before 2011, everybody in this area did not take tornadoes as serious as they do now.
Yeah.
Now schools will close; they won't even open on the day of a threat. I went to my friend's house, and my parents said yes because back then it just wasn't something this community was familiar with.
Yeah.
So no, they weren't prepared. I think the power was out, so the only preparedness that my family did is. Power was out, so they couldn't get in the garage. We were the type of family that always went to the garage, didn't even have a house key. So my mom and sister had to wait for my dad to get home to let him in the house because he had the house key. Because of that, they got in just in time, still had their shoes on. Otherwise, they would have been kicked on the couch, just chilling with no shoes. But they had their shoes on, and the purses, were just sitting on the counter, and those got blown away. So, there wasn't the level of preparedness nowadays. So we learned a lot for sure.
So did you pretty much lose everything, or were you able to salvage anything from it?
So this necklace I have on here, this was my, and this is an amazing story. And every time somebody asks me about this necklace, I love bringing it up.
Yeah.
So this is the only thing that I have that I had before April 27th, 2011. And everything else completely blown away, house completely destroyed. We didn't find a single brick from the home. They all got sucked up in the sky and blown away. But this was my graduation present. And I was a senior. I hadn't graduated yet. My dad wore one my whole life. So my grandmother bought him 2 when she went to Israel. One for him and one for if he had a son. And so I grew up watching him wear a necklace identical to this one. and she gave it to me a week or two before graduation. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear it yet, Grandma, because I've been waiting my whole life to wear this thing. I'm going to wait till I walk across the stage. So this was sitting in a little box on my counter upstairs in my bedroom. The tornado blew everything away. So spent, 2 weeks digging through rubble looking for this. Finally found it.
Really?
And so put it on, and it's been on my neck ever since.
You didn't find anything else?
I mean, stuff that was just shattered and broken, but immaterial stuff. And we didn't find any of our pictures, kids' albums of when we were kids. Or I remember my sister she loved Precious Moments, and every little glass figurines. She would get some of those every holiday, Christmas, birthday. She had hundreds of them, a huge cabinet full. We didn't find a single one of those. I had trophies. I played sports growing up. Trophies littered my room, all on shelves. Didn't find a single trophy. No telling. Those were, 10s and 20, 30 miles away. We don't know. But I found the necklace, and that was really what reminds me of that day, reminds me where I come from, and that, the Lord will protect us.
Wow.
Yeah.
How far away from the house was the box with the necklace?
So the box, that's a unique story in itself. It was under a piece of sheetrock from probably another house, so it was a couple 100 yards away. We had searched through the house. I'd given up looking, decided I'm going to go and start helping other people. Just help them carry things out of their house, and maybe salvage some items that they can salvage, because we'd salvaged everything we could, which was really nothing. We looked for everything that we could save that was not monetary value. I remember we found some 20s and $100 bills, just wadded them up and threw them to some neighbors' kids, because at that point cash money didn't mean anything. We lost everything that we had. I was just looking for this. I gave up, and when I gave up, a couple days later, I saw a piece of sheetrock, which the neighborhood was littered with sheetrock. Houses were destroyed, roofing, shingles was everywhere.
Right.
For some reason, I decided I'm going to go just kick that piece of sheetrock. So I just rear back and kick it just to see how far I can kick it. And underneath the sheetrock, I noticed the box. And I just prayed before I opened it. I said, please let the necklace be in there. It was all dented up, and opened it up. Took it. I had to pry it open, and there inside was this necklace. Perfect shape.
Had you been praying to find it?
I had been praying to find it. But when I finally gave up and said, you know what, if I don't find it, that's okay. I'd come to peace with that I may never get it again. That's when I found it. And I remember my grandmother and grandfather called me every day. Have you found the necklace? Have you found the necklace? Have you found the necklace? So that day I got to call her and tell her I found the necklace. So that was a special day.
Yeah, we think about all the different pieces of sheetrock out there.
Right.
What would prompt you to
kick it? Yeah,
kick up that one.
That was definitely the Lord leading me to kick that one.
How amazing. I mean, in 2011, I guess at that point you had digital photos that perhaps you could reclaim.
We had some MySpace maybe back in the day, but not so much as
the photo
not
album.
the Facebook and the Google Photos and the drive. You really had to get a hard drive and back that up.
That's true.
And even then, all of our computers were blown away. So
gotcha.
We would have had, the cloud really didn't exist to the level it does today. We lost everything. The only pictures that we have of when we were kids is maybe ones that was hanging on grandparents or, aunts and uncles in a big family photo. We could see ourselves there. But, you don't think about these things. And I've been able to connect with people over the years who've lost their family homes in fires or hurricanes or tornadoes and connect with them. It's a unique thing that most people don't think about until you go through that.
Were there other homes that were a total loss like yours?
So there were, in our neighborhood, our home was the worst one. It was almost like the tornado was bouncing and it just touched down right on our house. And they actually came to our house to evaluate, and they changed it from an EF4 to EF5. So that's when they determined we had a brick home. It took us days to find the vehicles. They were all crumbled and crushed. We were walking on the top of them, didn't even know they were underneath us.
Oh my gosh.
There was just so much devastation and damage. But I think 20 or 30 homes in that neighborhood had to be completely demolished. But ours was the only one that was literally just leveled to the ground. But they survived. My family was inside, and I remember my mom and dad said my sister started lifting up, and they just grabbed her and ducked, and 10 seconds later they look up and there's blue sky, and they're out in the open when they were in the middle of a house, a brick house, in the middle. I mean, it's hard to even fathom.
So no more than 20 seconds.
More than 20 seconds, it was done. My sister and mom, because my sister, she was in, because it would have been 10th grade. So she was, had pretty devastating nightmares and trauma and shock from that, justifiably, right? And the sound, they said it sounded like you take hundreds of toothpicks in your hand and just start snapping them all at once. And that was the 2x4s of the house, just snap, 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 snap. And she would hear that sound, for weeks, probably months after that, just hearing the snaps of the wood. But you can imagine a house of any size. There was not a single piece of wood that was not broken. And so all that you hear in 10, 15, 20 seconds.
Your mom and dad have any PTSD?
No,
and
I mean, it
from
just,
that?
I guess they were very grateful, that they were okay. But my mom, she still gets worried when there's storms. Me and my dad, kind of on the opposite side, were like, hey, we survived that one. We're not scared anymore. Lord can protect us again. But, just the aftermath of having to go through that and get back everything you had, from a toothbrush to a refrigerator to shoes to clothes to a house, you have to get all that back. And so that was a long year process. My mom took off work for an entire year just to try to, start over, from nothing until to get us back and support us when I was graduating high school, about to go off to college, and my sister was in high school. So that was a very unique time. And I was thinking about going to Alabama, Roll Tide, huge Alabama fan. That moment kind of changed it for me. And I said, I want to stay close to home. And so that's really what led me to go into UAH and, starting my path of all that I've done here in Huntsville. Otherwise I would have been in Tuscaloosa, and who knows where I would have, led from there. But, family was always important. But that day, really, I realized, I'm going to stay close to family. That's the most important thing. Anything else I can get back.
Was there any sort of kind of pulling on that thread, major mind tension between your sister and then your parents, and then that completely changed it, and the relationships greatly improved?
I mean, we always had a close-knit family, I think, so it wasn't like we were, separate by any means, but I think we did obviously get closer through that, me and my sister specifically, just bickering back and forth, sibling rivalry, things like that. It really changed my perspective. And I think for me, it brought me closer to them more than anything, because I wasn't there. And so they all knew they were okay after going through that. Granted, they had the trauma and everything, but for a long time, what seemed like days, but it was the course of several hours, I did not know if they were alive or not.
Yeah.
And so, I knew that my house had been destroyed, knew the neighborhood had been hit. There's no communications, all the cell phone towers were down. So I had thought the worst. And so, that really brought me closer to them after that, realizing just how valuable and life is so fragile. It changed my perspective for sure.
How far away was your buddy's house from?
We were about 1.5 miles.
Okay.
And believe it or not, we were outside, and we saw what looked like flocks of birds flying overhead. And it was crazy because hundreds and hundreds of birds just way up in the sky. Looked like they're going vertical, but the tornado was so big, they're going in a circle. But from our viewpoint, they're going straight. One fell from the sky, and we're like, that bird just dropped out of the sky. We ran over to see it, and it wasn't a bird, it was a brick.
Oh, wow.
So we were just on the outskirts of the debris field to where the bricks way up in the sky looked like blackbirds.
Wow.
So we, those were bricks from my home and other homes. So I was close by and heard on the radio, because we were listening to the news and everything. I'll never forget the guy's voice. He was panicking, saying Anderson Hills has been hit again. And he said, this time I'm afraid it's not good. It's not good. And we heard siren after siren and ambulance after ambulance go by, from passing us going into my parents' neighborhood where I, was supposed to be. And just, I was in shock, and, that was just a rough time. But seeing them roll up, so grateful.
Did you all have, I can't, and I only don't know because I lived in Northern Virginia, but were you on Good Morning America or Today Show?
So not us personally, honestly. So I didn't watch TV. We were in the middle of it. And the way the tornado hit, everybody in this area knows about it. But, few, and I say few, a couple hundred people in this massive city were impacted, similar to our family. So in the scheme of things, it's small, the devastation path. But really, everybody nationally focused on Tuscaloosa. That was the one that hit Alabama, and I lost people I went to high school with. They lost their lives. So we had people, here. I think we had 27 maybe in Madison County that passed away. Don't quote me on that. It's something like that. But a lot more died in Tuscaloosa. And Tuscaloosa being the college town, that got all the news publicity. Not that I'm jealous of that by any means, but
sure.
A lot of people forgot about Harvest in North Alabama, didn't realize that we got hit too. And a lot of times when I tell the story, people, oh, you lived in Tuscaloosa. It's like, no, I lived right here. Especially folks like you who've moved in, they don't realize Harvest got completely devastated. And I'll never forget the first time we watched TV. We didn't even know about how big and how many people got hit that day. Hundreds of tornadoes came through the southeast. First time we were turned on the TV, we gathered as a family. We were going to see what the news was. They just start talking about the tornadoes, and then breaking news. The president comes out, and he announced that we killed Osama bin Laden.
Oh,
so that was
that was April of 2011.
April
right?
2011. So that was a couple weeks after the tornado. That was the first time we sat together as a family to watch TV. It was we were all cheering, and it brought us together to celebrate right after that disaster. So that was pretty neat.
Can I tell you where I was that day for the Osama bin Laden thing? So that was I guess they killed him on a Sunday.
Okay.
But it was a Monday when they announced it, right? And I'm playing in this, the CIA, they had the first time I ever played, hey, the director has a golf tournament. And the director at the time was George Tenet. And so, we're like, okay. So then there's this course in Leesburg, Virginia, and it's called Raspberry Falls. And, I don't know. I never met the director. And not a big deal. Like if I would get to meet him, great, right? But anyway, so we go out there and he's not there, and everyone's kind of puzzled. Like, oh, normally he plays in this thing, and it's fun to see his group. That it's like a scramble, right?
Yeah.
And I end up winning the closest to the pin contest on one of the holes, and I'm like, sweet. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna you normally get a picture with the director, but he's not even here. Well. So the tournament's over, we're in doing the prizes and stuff, and then he shows up. Like the convoy comes, and so this course in the CIA headquarters is about 35 miles, 40 miles from each other. So they get in their black SUVs and come flying out to this thing, and he is all smiles,
something just happened.
And you're just like, hey, and he's just in a good mood. Sorry, I couldn't come. Busy day. And he's just, I get my picture with him. I never have seen the picture, by the way. I don't somebody took the picture and they didn't even ask my name. How do I get the picture? But anyway, he was just beaming. Yeah. And then that night there was the press conference.
So knew,
now I know why he was so happy.
That's neat.
Because they had that all with the famous pictures of the Situation Room with Hillary Clinton and Obama, right, and George Tenet, and then they were all sitting there, and that was on a Sunday. But anyway,
it's neat how those moments bring your people from all over America together to know where they were.
And I was I always feel bad when I just didn't know about the tornadoes because I was on site at the CIA every day. We're not on the internet, we could be, but you're busy doing your job, head down. I barely listen to the news at times after work, driving home tired. So my buddy and I come down here on a golf trip. I think it's the trail, the Silver Lakes course. I think it's in Gadsden maybe or Amosville or something. Anyway, so the tornadoes from 2011. This is 2012, a year later, and we're kind of driving in, whoa.
You can notice
what happened.
Yeah.
These trees are just been cut off and everything, and the course had just reopened from tornado damage. And we were like, you guys had tornadoes? And oh, yeah, historic. Oh, I'm sorry, man. We didn't know. Yeah. Just totally unaware until we drive into this. And that's a different part of Alabama, right? That's far away from Tuscaloosa, far away from here.
Hundreds of tornadoes hit the state on that weekend, that stretch of 3 days. It was the largest outbreak in the history since they've been tracking tornadoes. So it was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing story, man, about the necklace and that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Man, it means.
I cherish it. And I use that opportunity anytime somebody's just like, nice necklace.
Has anybody ever said that's an ugly necklace, and now you just want to like punch them in the face? I know you wouldn't, but
there was one time I was almost in a fight. One time in my life,
really,
and it was college, and we were playing kickball, and I'm competitive as it is.
Yeah.
But guy, we were sliding into first base, and I was safe, by the way. I beat the throw out, but he's arguing with me. So he comes up and he starts to grab and acting like he's going to grab my necklace, and he threatened to yank that necklace off my neck. And just to say, I didn't take too kindly to that. So we didn't fight, but
it was close.
It was close. So.
He's like, all right, man. Hey.
Yeah. And then later I apologized and told him the story about the necklace, and I was like, I was afraid you're going to break it, and we're good now.
So you studied mechanical engineering,
right?
UAH, and then I think you commented that people thought you might have been more like in the business school.
Yeah, I think everybody thought I was in the business school. And I still don't know why. Like people swore, like, no, you were in my business classes, and it's like I wasn't. But
doppelganger.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, business was always a passion of mine.
Yeah.
But being in Huntsville and with Redstone Arsenal, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. Switched from Tuscaloosa to, hey, I'm going to go to UAH now, stay close to home. It made sense to do engineering, so that's what I did.
But you started I think you said you've started other businesses, and you also started a fraternity.
Right. Yeah. So businesses just for fun, really just the entrepreneurship. I enjoy the starting things and building them from scratch organizationally.
Yeah.
So nothing to make me a ton of money on. But yeah, also started a fraternity. Was very involved on campus at UAH. Really, honestly, anything you could be involved with except for Greek life. And I remember a couple of fraternities were always, you know how it is, wanting you to come out and rush with them, and had friends in all of them. So I couldn't really pick, and I didn't want to join one over another because I had friends in them all. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity came, I guess it was junior year. A fraternity was interested in expanding to Huntsville. The guy that started it, Tryon Hubbard, he was badge number 1 in Tuscaloosa, and they've had thousands and thousands of men go through that in Tuscaloosa. He retired to Huntsville, and he was like, I want to see Phi Psi at UAH. So he came to campus, and they met with me and a couple of other guys who were involved, but not yet in Greek life. And I was hooked. I was like, absolutely. I've always wanted to do this, but didn't find the right group, and there were stereotypes on different ones that I didn't want to be associated with, whether they were true or not. And I was like, well, we can build this one up from the ground up and make it what we want it. And so that's what we did.
It was called Phi Psi?
It's called Phi Psi, yeah, Phi Kappa Psi.
Phi Kappa Psi, okay. And what was your, I guess you have usually a project or something, like what was your mission, I guess?
So Phi Psi really, it's brotherhood. So, among all the young men that join, community service, really one of their slogans is the great joy of serving others. So they're big on serving the community in various ways. And so that's really got involved with the homeless through Phi Psi and helping the homeless around Huntsville. And that really is what started my path towards ShowerUp later on and other things is through the fraternity at UAH.
Were you at like Downtown Rescue Mission or like?
So what we actually did was we started kind of our own project. That's a theme for me. I like making my own path. And so we started going out and helping the homeless around town on our own as brothers. And the news loved it because it was shortly after there was, I don't know if you're familiar with the Rolling Stones article about fraternities, it was completely fake. The Rolling Stones put out a post. They got sued for hundreds of millions of dollars later on. But Virginia UVA fraternity, which was the same fraternity I was in, completely baseless claims, and they put out this story for clickbait. And they shut down all the fraternities, shut down ours. 6 members of our fraternity, young college kids, they were sued and dragged through the mud, and big mess. So fraternities had this negative light. Well, a year or so after that, the same fraternity down in Huntsville, Alabama, was doing good.
Gotcha.
And so the news took it and rolled with it. So what we were doing is we were going out and really befriending and making brothers out of men on the streets of Huntsville. And so for our rush events, rather than just going after freshmen and letting them come and have fun, we would invite men from the streets to, hey, we're having a grill out. Come get a free hot dog, get a free burger. We would go to Sonic and all eat. Well, there were some homeless men around there. We let them join in, and it was a good story. But it also was great for these. A lot of them are veterans, and we served them in many ways. And the news caught on, started rolling with that. So the big kicker was we had a car wash for one of the gentlemen. So he would carry a rag around. He would go around and wash cars around Huntsville and wash windows of some restaurants, Chick-fil-A, Sonic. He would wash their windows, and they'd give him free food. But what we decided to do was we were going to host. His name was Papa Dan. That's what everybody called him on the streets. So we hosted Papa Dan's Car Wash. And so we told him, we said, hey, we're going to get a few fraternity brothers out here. We're going to pay you to wash our cars. What we didn't tell him is we publicized it all over the city and said, come out to Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. And so we got with the managers of Chick-fil-A. They let us use their parking lot. And instead of him washing our cars, he got to sit there, and we washed everybody's car that came in. And they donated, and so we raised money for him through that. So it was really neat, and that kind of went viral as well.
That's cool. On the brotherhood standpoint, still in contact with a lot of your fraternity brothers?
Yeah, I mean they become close friends, and really it's just like any other social group or group you're in. You just become friends, and really that's what it was all about. There's a lot of stereotypes or things, but it was just people with similar interests. We were. As we started up, we were all athletic guys who love sports. So those people were drawn to our organization. You have the gamers and you have the sporting, but we all love sports. So we play on sports together, against the other fraternities and serve together, through trying to raise money and do projects or cookouts. And so, had them in my wedding, and we continue. Some of my best friends, came through that.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the realities as you get older is you just have fewer friends, your family will get bigger and different responsibilities. And it's just so important to, for men particularly, to like have friendships and brotherhood. Yeah. If I can tell you one this past Saturday, so my buddy Thad, his brother was killed in Afghanistan. He was an Air Force combat controller. And this was like in 2010. He's told his story on the podcast, but, we're friends. We served missions together for our church like 30 years ago. But and I never knew his brother. But since I moved to Huntsville, Madison, Huntsville, and he's from Haleyville, and they all went to University of Alabama and stuff. But they do a memorial walk, a ruck, not just a walk, a ruck. And it started. His brother's call sign was Jack 28. So they started with a 28-mile ruck in Haleyville. Back in 2011, 2012. They started the Mark Forrester Foundation, and they raise money and then give a scholarship to Haleyville High School students to help them. Right? So they do like a golf tournament. They do this walk and other stuff. And so I did it 4 years ago. And what they did, they kept adding a mile for every year that Mark would have turned. Okay. But then you start getting into issues logistically, like you get to 36 miles and like it could take 12 hours. And depending on where you're trying to do that, the police have to help out, and you disrupt traffic, and they had a lot of people. So, over the years, it's winnowed down some, and now they kind of do it, not in Haleyville, but they'll do it like even during COVID, like a virtual walk. Well, this year they decided to do 45 miles because his brother would have turned 45. And so I had just flown in Friday night from DC. And so I said, hey, I can't do the whole thing. I've got some responsibilities for church this weekend, but like, what time are you guys getting started? He said 3:30 in the morning on County Line Road. I'm like, I'll be there. So, and I'll get to the point I'm going to make, but so Saturday morning, 3:30, although they were a little late, we start, and I walked I rucked. I actually put on like 20, 30 pounds because I wasn't going to do the full thing. Did like 10 miles and they continued on. But there's his one friend, Chris, who's my age, 50. He's never really prepared for these things, but he's there because the brotherhood of Mark, and now he knows Thad more. Like no matter what, even if it's painful for him, and he always ends up buying the wrong shoes, and he's not in the best like physical shape necessarily, but he will gut it out. Yeah, and you already will have blisters by like 10 miles, 11 miles. And then you just compound that to go 45 miles and start at 3:30 in the morning, end at 9 p.m. But I've always been amazed every time I've been around that to see these people come back together. Some of them were people that were like in that guy's unit in the military, or just people that knew them from college. But like the brotherhood, and I knew that guy would be there, and I knew he would do the whole thing. Where there was other people like me, like, well, I only can do some of it. Like he will, if he's asked to do 100 miles, he'll do it.
Wow.
Like he'll do anything for his brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like really powerful.
Absolutely.
Have you had some cool events that you do as kind of like an alumni type thing with the fraternity?
So we uniquely, we are new still.
Yeah.
And so our alumni events we do smaller, just kind of on our Founders Day in February, we kind of get together and do like a meal type of thing. But we still, when I graduated, there was no alumni because we were the first one. So it's kind of hard to have an alumni event when you were number one. So it's more geared towards the younger guys. And so we're now getting to a point where we have more alumni than the people that are currently active, in college. And so it's a unique perspective. But, as you grow, like in Tuscaloosa with thousands of alumni that have come through that fraternity, you can obviously, do a little bit bigger events.
Yeah. Let's transition now into ShowerUp. And it's cool. I really like to get the context and the background of kind of what we've talked about and kind of what your family means to you, even your fraternity in college, and what was important to you as far as that experience and what you were looking to build there. Certainly the effect of the tornado and helping others, right?
Yeah.
You've lost everything, but you're still wanting to help others, right?
Right.
So my understanding, and I'll give a shout out to Joe Martin from Huntsville Hustle, because he had you on his podcast, and those are things that anytime I have a guest on, I'll say, hey, I'll go onto like Spotify and search, did they get interviewed there or on YouTube? And, in addition to just your Instagram, which I like Instagram better than Facebook, it's just more intuitive. But so picked up on, some of the history and things. And then, of course, when you came to the Interfaith Council meeting,
right.
Mentioned some of those things there too. But, in a nutshell, it was this guy, Paul, right up in Nashville. They were, I think it was they, if not you, tendency to help the homeless a lot is food.
Right.
And the feedback that you all were getting, or he was getting, or any of us could encounter is say, hey, this is great for the food, but man, I'd really like to get a shower.
Right.
And at some point, the light bulb goes off. He starts that up here. You get introduced to him, come down to Huntsville, and kind of, even though it's not a franchise model, kind of decide, hey, Huntsville would be a great place to have like a second operation, if you will, instantiation of ShowerUp. And some lady, I guess you had thought, asked, she just was driving by, saw you, and I'm going to have you fill in the blanks here, but like, hey, how much would it, do you guys need to get started? You're like, probably $100,000. She's like, great, where do I mail the check?
Right.
And that goes to the truck to pull the trailer, and then the ShowerUp trailer, right, and all of that. But can you provide a little more color into what you all were doing that day when that lady drove up, and maybe just a little bit more of the conversation you had with her?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and really the conversation part is short, but a little background, I had served meals just like Paul had in Nashville. So Paul started in Nashville, and I was serving meals through the fraternity, and through just being in college at UAH. I would sit down with people, and rather than just throw them a sandwich or throw them $5, I would say, hey, let's have a meal. And I kept hearing, man, I wish I could take a shower. And I was like, wow. And so I realized there was a gap. So that's where the connection was made, that there's a group doing that in Nashville called ShowerUp Nashville. And Paul brought it down for a day. And so that day that you reference, there was a preview day. It was on Governor's Drive in the parking lot, 2820 Governor's Drive. And over 100 people showed up that day to get showers. And so the truck from Nashville and the ShowerUp trailer, which was just a basic box truck U-Haul type trailer where they built some showers in the back. That was model number 1. Drove down to Huntsville and gave showers for a day. And
contacted them?
So I got in a little bit after that, and so they had contacted some other groups down here to just host a preview event. So volunteers showed up and served, and I heard about what they were doing, and I went up to Nashville to meet with Paul because the opportunity was, hey, we need this more than once, more than this one day. We need to do this more often, and that's when the lady called because she saw that event taking place. She was passing by on Governor's Drive, and I think she said something to the effect of, these people looked like they should have been down on life, but they looked high on life. They were happy. They were smiling. What caused that to happen? And so the explanation was, well, they got showers. They got treated with dignity, and they, understood that they were loved and cared for, and we're trying to make that happen here in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And so, she said, well, how do I make that happen? Where do I mail the check? And it was a $100,000 check. And so I still didn't believe it until the check actually was cleared and showed up. I said, this has to be just somebody pulling a bad prank, messing with us. Because we didn't have a fundraiser built yet. We didn't have graphics or, a PR campaign. And that's what I was going to step in to do. I had fundraised when I was in college, so I thought, hey, I can help do a fundraiser. That was going to be my role. I was going to help out a little bit. I was still freshly out of college into engineering, but I thought, I'll launch a fundraiser. So me and Paul were talking back and forth, and that's when Paul said, hey, you don't need any graphics anymore. We don't need to come up with a fundraising campaign. The lady mailed the check. And so that bought the truck and bought a custom brand new shower trailer for Huntsville. Didn't know what it was going to look like at all. Paul had never done a franchise. He didn't have a model of expanding, but he knew how to serve people in Nashville. He actually needed another trailer in Nashville too. So he said, if this fails, and it just falls flat in Huntsville, we could always utilize that resource in Nashville.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I still, thought somebody's going to run this organization, because I had no intention of doing that. No, the Lord orchestrated this 100%. I'm clear on that. But I still, to the day, even when the truck got dropped off from Nashville, I took the keys from Paul, and I'm like, okay, thank you. Still just waiting for, okay, who's going to lead this organization? I'd never driven a pickup truck before. I'd driven a little car.
Yeah.
And
this is a big truck too, right?
Big F-150 with, with an extended cab and lifted, and with a big 20-foot trailer behind it. I'd never, driven a truck, so I never driven a trailer, never backed up a boat. And he hands me the keys, and it's like, there we go. Still in the back of my head.
So he procured the truck and the trailer in Nashville, whatever, and brought it down.
Right. Through ShowerUp.
Through ShowerUp.
Because ShowerUp, it was ShowerUp Nashville. So he had to change the name, because now we have
You're right.
ShowerUp Huntsville. So he changed it to ShowerUp Nashville rather than just ShowerUp. But so ShowerUp Huntsville was born because we had a trailer and we had a truck.
And that check then probably had to go to ShowerUp Nashville because
right,
it existed.
We didn't have anything
a bank
existing.
account.
We didn't have a bank account. We didn't have a nonprofit.
Right.
She just wanted the good work to be done in Huntsville.
Gotcha.
And so we said, yeah, we can do that. And Paul knew me in Huntsville, so he said,
right,
let's make it happen.
And he could accurately tell her what it cost for a truck and a trailer.
Right, because he was trying to build another one for Nashville.
Gotcha.
So he said, well, we'll just send this one to Huntsville. So that's what happened. And it was born, and I got the keys and started driving that truck and trailer around, showing up in parking lots, giving people showers. And we've done, I think we just passed 29,000 showers this past week.
Wow.
So since then, we've given 29,000 showers in Huntsville off of that one start and that one lady that started it.
And you were working as an engineer at the time on the Arsenal?
I was working as an engineer, and no intention to do anything else. I had a nice civilian government job that I was like, I'm just going to ride this out and reap the benefits of that job. And I went to school for engineering.
Yeah.
COVID hit, so right after we were starting to launch, we were building the trailer. It took 6 months or so after we got the money to get all the supplies and build the trailer and buy the truck. Well, in May of 2020 is when the trailer was delivered to Huntsville. Mm. That was at the height of COVID shutdown. And so my engineering job started being able to work from home. So that really helped because I could be flexible. They gave us flexible hours, so I could, take an hour or two here and go give showers and then just work 2 hours later at night. So really that freed me up to have the bandwidth still in the back of my head thinking, okay, somebody else is going to run this organization. But I fell in love with it. I mean, the people that I interacted with, seeing their reactions and, as you pull up into a spot and they're just waving and excited, yeah, I get a shower today. Something about that feeling and giving people something that they, without your help, could never never achieve. And it's something most of us do every day, just take a shower. I fell in love with that, and here I am still doing it today.
What it's at the top of your, it's a shower,
grace, hope, and love.
Shower, grace, hope, and love.
That's our motto. So
Right.
it's so much more than just the soap and the water. We want each and every person to experience grace, hope, and love. And I'll never forget one of the first or second times that we took the trailer out there was a gentleman that got a shower, and we have Grace, Hope, and Love on each. We have 3 shower suites in there. So one has Grace, a picture of Grace on the wall. It's got the word, and one's Hope, one's Love. Well, a gentleman went in the shower that said Grace. He came out and he asked, "What does that mean?" He said, "I kept hearing that word when I was in prison." He had just got out of prison after, I think, 21 years. And he said, "I heard it mentioned a couple times. Some groups came in and were talking, and
Really?
I just kept repeating this word grace." He said, "What does that mean?" And so got to sit down with him. We sat on the curb and talked, and that was really the moment that clicked with me. Of, man, have the opportunity to help people here in ways so much more than just giving them some soap and water and letting them rinse off.
Yeah.
We can make a deeper connection with people. And Paul says it well, and he says the shower is just a handshake. That's what gets them to us, so we can shake their hand to get to know them. It's really about so much more than just the soap and the water. And we've done that, like I said, 29,000 times in Huntsville, and every time is an opportunity for someone to feel better about themselves that day, and that can change their life. Just one simple shower.
Yeah, I think when I was in, Jessica Brown herself had been homeless and had lived in her car, at one time. And I've had other guests that talked about homelessness. And I interviewed Keith. I think it's Keith. Sometimes I forget the names, from Downtown Rescue Mission,
Keith.
right? The CEO
Keith
there,
Overholt,
Overholt. Where, and I think it was more poignant when I was talking to Jessica, and we were also talking about how First Stop, if you are homeless, you could use their address so that if you went to apply for a job, you actually have an address that you could receive mail, correspondence, and make it look like you live somewhere, and just how important that is. And then she had mentioned ShowerUp, and just for someone to feel clean, be able to put on clean clothes, go to a job interview, and feel like somebody's not seeing through you, right? And just based on your appearance, and like, I just had that. For some reason, it was really poignant when she and I were talking about that, and I just had that moment of like clarity, like, wow, hell yeah, man, that is profound. But then even for you, I mean, it's one of those jobs where we all want to do something we enjoy, but there's probably never going to be a day that you don't enjoy,
right?
Because you're impacting people in such a way, even whether they're repeat customers or their first time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as long as somebody's getting out of that shower,
Yeah.
you watch them go in, and they're carrying so much weight and dirt and shame, and you see that, and then they walk out with a smile. Or some are just, some of them will be singing and dancing. Some of them want to come up and give you a hug. I mean, everybody's got their own little thing of how they do that, but you watch them walk out, and some are quiet and some don't say anything, but you can see it in their eyes. You can see it on just the way they carry themselves. They just are so much more relaxed that it never gets old, and I don't see how it ever would.
Do they usually, rightfully so, take a long time?
So the
really
average,
enjoy it?
Great question. So the average shower is actually about 15 minutes.
Okay.
And so, of course, we have 3-hour events, and we do anywhere from 25 to 30 in the course of a 3-hour event with 3 private shower suites. We have a new shower trailer that Kohler has a plant here. So we connected with Kohler out of Wisconsin, their headquarters, and they gave us a shower trailer that's got 7 showers in it. So we're giving 60 plus showers a day in that one in a 3-hour span. So
they just donated it to you?
Well, they still own it, but they said you can use it for free.
Oh,
so
okay.
We operate it. We still have to pay for all the expenses and everything, and getting the supplies, but we use that amazing resource for free. So that's amazing. But even there, 15 minutes is the average shower. I will say that if you want to ask the record time, so it was 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Shower.
So one lady took 1 hour and 45 minutes. But I'll tell you, she needed it. Not just because she was dirty on the outside, obviously, she was, but she came out with tears, and I can't remember her age. She was in her upper 60s or 70.
Wow.
And she had, where dirt was on her skin, she washed the dirt off, and her skin was almost eroding away. The dirt had been there so long. But she told us, she said, "I've been in pain. I don't remember when I was never not in pain." But she said, when that hot water was running over my body and my muscles, she said, I just felt my muscles relax and the pain went away. And that's why we don't give time limits. And so one of the things that we're adamant about is you take the time that you need.
Yeah.
If that's 15 minutes, if that's 30 minutes, if that's 1 hour and 45 minutes, take the time you need. It all averages out. And so sometimes, a lot of times, we can't get to everybody that needs a shower. There's more people that want a shower than we have time to give a shower. But we would rather have to do that than farm everybody in like animals and say, you got 15 minutes on the clock, knock, 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 and kick them out. We want them to be able to take the time they need. And most of the time, people see the line behind them and are like, I'm gonna go quick. I'm gonna take the time I need because I might be in the back of the line next week.
Yeah. How are you heating the water?
So we have tankless hot water heaters on all of our units, and so unlimited hot water. That's one of the things that most people
heats it as it comes in.
Heats it instantly as it comes in, and so as long as we have a water source, that's what we need. And then we go through a lot of propane. So we have generators, and propane also heats the gas or heats the hot water heater. So a lot of gas that we use, but everybody's getting hot water and all they need.
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing because kind of going back when we started talking about this inception, right? Like it's not just food, you need money. You ultimately need capital. And we'll talk about Andrew here in a second, who's was your first employee. But, like it's funny you say, shampoo isn't going to, the propane tank, doesn't need shampoo and conditioner to make it run. It needs propane. And, this is one of those this nonprofit business where, yes, you want to accept fresh socks and soaps and just different toiletries and such for those guests and towels, but you also need money to pay for the things that only money can buy.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. Gasoline for the vehicles. I mean, insurance and registration on vehicles that we have to drive around. And when a wheel falls off because we've gone too many miles, you got to have money.
Has that happened to you?
Well, we've had a couple wheels that we've hit a pothole one time, or the tire got flat, and we use it frequently every day of the week. So generators run out, things break. And if you think about your house and repairs to your own plumbing or shower heads that might get old, when we're giving 30, 40, sometimes 60 showers a day inside of a shower, there's a lot of repairs, a lot of maintenance, because we're doing a month's worth of showers in a day sometimes.
Let me ask this question before we launch into. We'll switch over here to Instagram, but are you able to turn it off? We haven't yet talked about your wife and your kid, but is there sometimes? All right, Taylor, you're spending too much time with ShowerUp, and you need to dial it back.
It's tough. So my wife helps me. My kid now, he's learned. Get off your phone. He doesn't know how to say phone. He said, get off your phone. And I realized, okay, he's 2.5 and he's telling me. But because, I feel good about what I'm doing, it gives me satisfaction knowing that everything that I'm doing involved with shower, even if it's responding to an email or if it's, trying to get donations of socks or underwear or, coordinating things, I ultimately see the purpose of that and helping people. So when that's your job versus my engineering job that I when I did engineering, I could turn that off. I go home for the day. But when you're building your own essentially nonprofit organization and you see an endless capacity to grow and also the need is huge, it is hard to turn it off. My wife helps me with that. She says, hey, no more ShowerUp emails right now, or wait, I try to be deliberate about dinner time, no phone, and then I work late. So when my wife and son go to bed, I'm back downstairs for another 3-4 hours doing the stuff, so I don't have to be on the computer with them. Yeah.
Does she work as well?
She's a teacher.
Okay.
So yeah, she's a school teacher, and she teaches in Huntsville City Schools.
Gotcha. All right, so I want you to talk about Andrew and talk about Andrew's story. And we'll launch into some pictures.
Yeah. So his story is amazing. So I had a full-time job in engineering, and I had that up until a couple weeks ago. I've decided that told my employer that hey, I'm leaving to do what I'm passionate about full-time. But we were just operating on the weekends because I had work during the week, and so when people weren't working, primarily a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday, we had events Saturday and Sunday, and came to the realization. People need showers every day of the week. We had so many people telling us, I got to go to a job. I need to get a shower. Or I need to get my clothes washed before I go to work. Well, you can't do that if we only shower on the weekends. And so really took a leap of faith saying that we need to hire somebody. But it had to be the right person because everything relies on that person. They got to treat people with respect. They had to get who we are. Everything that really had been built from the ground up relied on hiring somebody who would get it and who would go the extra mile and, do it the ShowerUp way, essentially. So that's when, really Andrew was the perfect one for that. Andrew is somebody who took showers with us for 3 years. His story, he was homeless in Huntsville. He slept under the I-565 bridge for, I think, 6 years until he finally got a tent. But his story before Shower Up, he would set his phone alarm for 3 a.m. Because that's what time the sprinklers came on at Big Spring Park. So he would go and take showers out there. He knew what it was like, and he knows how to serve people who are living in the streets because he's lived that life, and he has so much compassion for them and knows the best way to serve them, ways that I don't know because I have not walked that walk. And so came time to hire somebody. We hired Andrew, and so we were able to lift him up and give him a job, and he now has a shower of his own, so he doesn't have to shower in our shower trailers anymore, but instead he's driving our trailers around, and that's why we have events. That's why we had one today. It's why we're going to have one Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because Andrew's job is to bring showers to the people, and it's just a full circle moment. And every time we hire somebody, and we need to hire more people, and as we continue to grow in Huntsville, that's exactly the model that we're going to do, is lift up somebody who needs a job, lift them out of homelessness, and let them pour back into something that they're passionate about. And Andrew will tell you, he feels like this is his calling. This is his career. He's going to do the rest of his life till he can't do it anymore. And I love that.
How long's it been then?
So Andrew's been with us, man. He's I think past 3 years now.
Okay.
So yeah, he's been with us for 3 years.
And so it was 3 years ago when you left your engineering job?
So no, that is now.
Oh, that's now. Okay,
I'm going in about 1 or 2 days a week to drain out my leave.
Okay.
And I'm done. So
I wasn't sure when you mentioned that if you were going back in time, but
no, yeah. So I hired Andrew. I was still not employed by Shower. I'm still.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that now.
Okay.
Because I realize I just can't. I don't have the time. There's so much need. I need to pour my whole time into that and not have to go into an engineering job 40 hours a week.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. All right, I want to switch over now, and let's pull up your Instagram. And let's start with the fact that you went 30 days without a shower. And actually, I think I can play this video. This is afterwards, and this is before, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Let's see, and we should be able to hear the audio.
It's a challenge that not everyone is willing to take, but the COO of ShowerUp is more than 2 weeks into the month of April without stepping foot
Let's listen
in a
to it for a
shower.
minute.
The goal
Is that all right?
is not just about personal discomfort. It's about perspective. For those in our community experiencing homelessness, going days or even weeks without access to a clean, safe place to wash is a constant reality. ShowerUp COO Taylor Reed says the No Shower Challenge is designed to help the community connect with that experience.
I'm stepping into their world a little bit, kind of like the Ice Bucket Challenge, and hopefully people will think, wow, that guy's crazy, but they'll realize that that's a reality that many people living on the streets have to deal with every day.
While Reed is going the full 30 days, he says some people have already begun taking the challenge for a single day to show their support. ShowerUp looks to bring hygiene to those who need it most by providing mobile shower suites and even a mobile laundromat. Reed says the impact ShowerUp has is deeply personal.
They walk out feeling clean, feeling refreshed, and they get to go do what they need to do that day in confidence with dignity restored.
The organization relies entirely on donations to purchase supplies like towels, soap, and new undergarments. Every $12 donated provides one full shower for a neighbor in need. The No Shower Challenge runs through the end of April. It's a challenge that not everyone is willing to take.
Now, was that okay? I got a lot of questions.
There you go. Yeah, you're not the only one.
With the beard was before you took the shower?
Yeah, so I shaved on, I guess it would have been the day before April 1st.
Okay.
I was clean shaven. I'd never grown up my beard that long before. I didn't shave. I didn't shower for the entire month of April.
Wow. And so, how did you stink bad? I mean, like, or did you use deodorant, I guess?
So I definitely used deodorant. So I cheated a little bit. So deodorant is always a huge need that we never have enough of. So if I was really going to do this, I was going to sleep outside and not use deodorant. And so I did use deodorant. And then when it got really bad, I would take a baby wipe and kind of try to wipe under my arms. So I will say I still did not have it like many of those who are truly experiencing homelessness have. But my eyes were opened. I mean, I was not feeling good. I was getting grumpy times when I shouldn't be getting grumpy. And I realized, no wonder some of these folks are sometimes short-fused or, because they just feel terrible about themselves. And I started to feel that a little bit. And, it helps me better serve them. And my goal was to bring awareness to people who had no idea. You know, a lot of people think, oh, they need food or they need sleeping bags. They don't realize you don't get a shower. And so that was my goal. I interact with people every day who have gone weeks without a shower. Day 2 into that challenge, a guy showed up. It was his first time ever, you know, coming to ShowerUp. He was new to town. He had been 30 days without a shower. And I was able to tell him, man, I'm about to do this. And he was so appreciative and nearly in tears thinking, you're going to do that just because for me, you don't even know me, but you're trying to raise awareness. And I learned a lot. There was one time that I got so desperate. It was actually after a ShowerUp event. I was outside in the sun. I found a hose pipe and I stuck my head under it just to have some cold water flowing over my head. But yeah, I mean, it's go without a shower and you really start to realize some of the things these folks go through.
Let me see if this is the one I was looking at. This might
It's a challenge.
no,
Not every-
no.
Is it,
There's one that's just you talking.
Okay, that's probably that one. One over. Yep.
This one here.
No,
Down here?
That was the first one I took with no shower.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be.
Let's do this.
30 days without a shower by choice.
Oh, because you just shaved. Yeah.
The entire month. Why? Because every single week we serve hundreds of people experiencing homelessness who have no access to a shower. It's something that many of us take for granted. And it's more than about getting clean. It's about giving hope. It's about dignity. It's about feeling human again. So we're turning this into a challenge. We're inviting you to skip just one shower and donate $12. That's what it costs for us to provide a shower to someone in need. One small sacrifice can make a real difference. And if I can go a whole month, you can skip a day. Comment, I'm in, tag 3 friends, and help us give dignity back one shower at a time.
How did it go? Like, did people respond to it?
Yes, I definitely didn't raise as much money as I was wanting to, but it was interesting the amount of people who honestly were like criticizing it and like, I can't believe you're doing that. Like, that's nasty. Like, you still got to go to your job. Like, and that was exactly the reason I'm doing it, is so that you realize like people don't have a choice. And so I was a little bit shocked at how some people thought that wasn't a good idea. Like, how nasty. It shows me some of the perspective that they would have for other people. And wow, you know, I understand why some of my friends that you saw in that video, I know every single one of them, why they feel bad when they don't get a shower, because they think they're being judged, and maybe they are, you know. And so that was eye-opening. But then I did have a lot of people learn about us that had never heard about us before. So one of those videos that the news shared, you know, it had hundreds of thousands of views and thousands of shares because everybody was picking on their friends like, hey, you need to do this, you know, or this would be easy for you because you don't shower, kind of just joking. But my goal is that people realize, wow, you know, people have to go without showers. That was really more so than the money. It was the awareness and people understanding, you know, what people have to go through.
Let's break down. We'll come back to this. Let's break down the $12.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So that, you know, if you average out all the expenses that we have to spend, for us to, you know, and then how many events we have and how many showers we get per event, every $12 that we get in, that's about what we spend to give one person a shower.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, you know, every single person that gets a shower is going to get a new pair of underwear.
Gotcha.
You know, one pair of underwear is
huge.
$250 if you get hundreds at a time, you know, but normally, you know, a pair of underwear is $4. You have soap, shampoo, conditioner, razor, all of those supplies. Luckily, we don't have to buy all those supplies, or that number would be a lot higher. A lot of people donate those.
Yeah.
We give a clean towel, a clean washcloth to each person. We have to wash that afterwards so that it's clean for the next person. We have our vehicle expenses. We have to tow the trailers, transport them right to where the people are. You know, we're not asking people to walk 5 miles to take a shower. Now, sometimes they do, because even when we go to one place, there's people, you know, within a 5-mile radius who walk. But, you know, all those transportation expenses. You talked about the hot water and the propane. We're paying for that. You know, the staffing to run it, which is Andrew, paying him to be out there in his time to maintain the equipment, repairs, maintenance. All that adds up to $12.
Yeah.
That's if you ask me, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And so we're really efficient with what we do, and $12 is what we have to spend out to serve one person.
Well, you know, and I asked that for a few reasons, but one is, it's really cool to hear, oh, they get socks, they get some underwear, you know, maybe a little toiletry kit. But there's always, I've lived long enough, and, you know, you start seeing the nonprofits are in the news right now with all the fraud. Yeah. Right. And there's fraud everywhere, and it's unfortunate. And there's a lot of fraud with nonprofits. So for me, you know, people are like, hey, you know, you're going to donate to this and donate to that. Like, I'm very selective because it's where's the money going? You know, there's a lot of great causes, and there's like these fundraisers, and then sometimes you're left to think, well, wait a minute, but what are they raising money for?
Yeah.
Like, what's this awareness? What am I preventing if I give you $100, $1,000, right? So I love that. Just you start thinking it, you know, it's a very easy explanation, and you can still probably need more. You need more than $12,
Right? Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, you do,
Yeah.
but at least it's like the breakdown. Like, okay, you know, that makes sense, right, to what you're doing, and being able to back it up, right? And it's also just, let's go back to. I mean, this is frontline America.
Yeah.
Right. And anybody could end up in this situation very quickly.
Yeah. We meet people all the time who've never
Very
been homeless in their life. And whether it was a medical bill or parents died and they had to, you know, they were left in shambles, you know, they were living in their parents' house and then this happened, or, you know, they had a child that got sick and medical bills drained out that, you lost your job, got injured. I mean, there's so many stories of people who, not by their choice, and not by anything they did wrong, but circumstances that happened to them. And next thing you know, they drain their savings, and then they're in a hotel, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're on the street.
I'm just going to pick this one kind of at random, but maybe we can listen to this guy.
Made me feel human again. I fill up about 4 jugs of water every few days, and I rinse off that way. I wash out in the woods. Get that right there, and but y'all made me feel human again.
I mean,
That's what it's all about.
yeah. I mean, you compound that story. You can't be human and not be affected by.
Yeah.
And I have a brother who's in this situation, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of it's his choice, but I don't know how he survives, you know? And let me ask you this. How often, if they're not able to shower, are they able to brush their teeth? Or are they able to do those who struggle, those who shared their stories with you, are they able to do some things with hygiene, and then the shower is just something that's just that's hard to come by?
So normally, the teeth brushing, absolutely not, is a no, because, you know, think of how dirty a toothbrush would get quickly. Unfortunately, most of the people we serve don't even need a toothbrush because they don't have any teeth left.
Gotcha.
You know, to be honest, deodorant is one they usually never have. You know, those things you have to carry with you. You're up and you're moving so often, it's easy to lose things. You're spooked off, or somebody's trying to pick a fight with you, or they steal your stuff. If you fall asleep, you got a backpack. Well, somebody's going to walk by and steal it, most likely.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things, even, you know, not just shower, but basic hygiene things that we think about going to the bathroom. Toilet paper is like gold. I mean, we give out toilet paper, and then just because if you don't have a shower, you know, and Huntsville's getting to the point now, a lot of these restaurants, especially near the downtown or the metro where there's a lot of people experiencing homelessness, the doors are locked. And to get in the restroom, you got to go buy something, and they give you a code. You can't even go to the bathroom. You can't even wipe yourself. I mean, that's not good to think about, but people should, because they're people, and they're having to go in the woods and be like an animal. And that's why we commonly hear people say, the most common thing we hear is, I feel human again. And that's whether we're serving those experiencing homelessness, or we do disaster relief as well. We serve people who've been a week or more without a shower because of a disaster. And they say the same thing. They come out and say, I feel human again. Being able to take a shower, being able to go to the bathroom like a civilized human in a toilet with toilet paper. We don't think about those things, or I didn't until I got into this and meet people that every day have to walk in that struggle. And
and even during your 30 days, you probably still
I
cheated.
I cheated. I had a bathroom anytime I needed to.
Yeah, and that's something that really compounds to how you feel.
Yeah,
right. Like that has just detrimental health effects. Let me ask you: is there one in particular that you would like me to play or talk about their story?
Man,
I mean, I know you've met thousands and thousands of people, or we can just pick another one at random.
Yeah, that's
Maybe this one right here.
Yeah, let's play that one.
Makes me feel like somebody, because I am somebody.
Makes me feel better, like I'm a human being, a person.
Freshness.
That was disaster relief.
Like after you walk out of the hair salon or the barber shop, you feel a little taller, a little stronger, a little prouder.
Like decompressing, you know, maybe feeling a little normal again.
It puts a smile on my face to be able to take a shower, to be able to be clean. A lot of people don't realize
how little something like a shower could be when you're homeless, and a shower turns my entire day around.
Yeah, so that's a good snapshot of a bunch of different people, and all different stories, like those people you saw. One struggling with addiction, somebody else was, without a job. They, and then drained their savings and living on the street. Another one was disaster relief, and you get the common theme. No matter who you serve, man, we just feel clean, feel human, feel self-confidence and some dignity. Without that, it's a spiraling hill, a spiraling slope that you don't want to go down. And so, we just help at a basic level and let people feel clean and feel loved.
I had a question I was going to ask as that was going. And then let's talk a little bit about the first stops of the world. And this just one that comes to mind. But you used to park in their parking lot, right? Or are they still doing showers there?
Yeah, so complicated situation. Had a change of leadership, change of building, so a lot going on there. We're 200 yards away, so we're right at the homeless camp. We actually park at the encampment now. So rather than having to get in their facility and all that, we're at the homeless encampment where people live. So we're there. We're also around the corner at Governor's Drive, and so we try to go convenient places to where it's easiest for people, no questions asked, to go and be served.
Where are you pulling water from then?
So the city, when we're at the homeless encampment, the city actually put a water source and gave us a key so that we can give those people showers.
Nice.
And every other building that we're at, we can get water. We also can get out of fire hydrants. We still have to pay the bill, but we have a thing that we can hook up to a fire hydrant and get water that way.
Okay. So sometimes you have to pay the water bill, sometimes you don't.
If we partner with a facility, typically that facility will donate. They won't even notice a difference because they have all the water that they use. But we've never gotten free water. Essentially, it's got to be paid for somehow. Yeah. Whether it's somebody donating it or how we get that.
Right. Are there other nonprofits that have reached out to you that want to collaborate or partner in some way?
Yeah, all the
Can
time.
you talk about that?
I mean, we partner really with, First Stop. We provided, they were at a temporary building for almost 2 years, so we provided all their showers there. They had showers in their old building. We still supplemented their showers because they only had 2 and could only do so much. So we parked there every other Friday, giving showers there. Downtown Rescue Mission has showers. They have people that stay there, but showers need repair at times. Sometimes they're overloaded with capacity, so we've partnered there and parked in their parking lot and served. One time their women and children's wing. Salvation Army, same thing. They had issues with their showers. Some of the apartments in Huntsville have had water crisis where water was shut off. Even luxury hotels and luxury apartments in downtown Huntsville have had issues with water before. And it was one day, but they can't have their people not. So situations you don't even think about, we've done. And so really, we have a unique ability to go anywhere, and we bring our own power, and we can hook up to water anywhere. Even if it's not their building, we could get hundreds of feet of hose, and we can find water. We've even brought in water in our own tankers sometimes and set up jugs or fill our truck bed with water and give it that way. So we can bring that anywhere, and we will do that to anybody that needs it.
So 3 days ago, I pull up YouTube TV. Every now and then, my wife and I just want to watch. Let's just watch the news. Yeah. I get tired of looking for something to watch, and sometimes I just want to watch the news. And for whatever reason, it's on the live. I'm on the live page, so I'm assuming everything there is happening now. But there was I can't remember what station was rerunning something from January. So I start watching the news as if it's now, and the story comes up about, was it the Sullivan Street apartments?
Sullivan Street, yeah.
And I'm like, again? I'm seeing this news story about about the water problem. I'm like, I thought that was months ago.
Yeah.
And anyway, and it wasn't I can't believe this is happening again. It was just it was weird. And then I see the weather for the next few days, and it was 35 degrees on Wednesday.
Something's not right.
So I was like, when it's going to be 35 degrees Wednesday? She's like, what? It's it was from January. I'm like, that's weird. Yeah. It's just weird that I happened upon that, this on-demand thing that's supposed to be on the live page. But on the Sullivan Street stuff, because that got huge attention, of course. I'm actually interviewing Mayor Bartlett tomorrow.
Okay, wonderful.
I think that happened in the first few days in office for her.
Yeah.
Was that let's say selfishly, did that create more awareness to you all? Has that been a positive thing, even though it was a negative situation? Like you stepping in and people like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And now you're kind of helping a different clientele.
Yeah, so I think we've been around enough. Asheville, North Carolina. We went to Asheville for disaster relief. That was our aha moment to where people had no clue about us, and they learned then. We had so much traction from that when the Madison apartments came, not too many people didn't already know about us, but they were like, we love what you do. We're so glad you were stepping in this way. But it was such a unique situation, and I didn't believe it. I got a call from people that lived there, and this was prior to any of the news catching on, and I was just like, this doesn't seem right. I looked it up online. None of the news stations are talking about it. It's not on social media. This can't be true. So I drove out there, and sure enough, there everybody was stranded on their own. I walked in, and the apartment manager, she was actually crying at her desk, sitting at the desk, hands in her, and I walk in, and she said, we're just alone. I've been abandoned. She said, I've been showing up to work for the last 2 weeks, no paychecks. She said, my last 2 checks have bounced, but I'm trying to help these people that live here. I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, we'll help you. But Mayor Bartlett actually called me after the fact because we were on the ground there, but she had no clue either, just because the news hadn't got a hold of it yet, and she jumped into action getting help with some families that needed to get out of there. But I'll never forget, we had a mother with a 1-year-old walk up and asking to wash her infant's clothes, and she's trying to, I didn't think about it, she's got formula she's trying to mix for this baby with no running water and wash bottles and all this stuff. And there was another mother with a son on life support equipment. She couldn't keep it clean because she couldn't bathe him. And so that's when I told Mayor Bartlett, I said, we got to do something. She sprung into action, had the fire department out there and helped move, getting them out. So it was a beautiful story. But I think it did open people's eyes to, oh, wow, ShowerUp can do things not just for the homeless, but there's people that need water and showers and laundry. You know, and you never know. It could be you. They paid their bills. They didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't have water. So, yeah, it was a very unique situation, and glad to serve. I mean, I'm always impacted by who we help, no matter who it is. But the young children and people there who are having to go to school, kids having to go to school without showers or without, with dirty clothes, and the mother telling me, she's used all the baby clothes. She doesn't have any more clothes for her infant. Being able to wash clothes in that situation in our new laundry trailer, it was special.
Yeah. For some reason, I hope this is a good comparison. I interviewed Jonathan Macklin. He lives in Decatur. Okay. He is similar to you in a way where he has been a police officer most of his life, and right now he's like the security officer for one of the schools in Decatur. But he happens upon this fella who does a lot of work in Africa to help Zambia, in this case, villages have clean water. They don't. This is a story where your children will probably be sold into like trafficking slavery by the time they're 12, or they'll be sex trafficked and whatever else, right? Because the parents can't, they don't have anything, and someone comes and says, hey, we'll buy your child, and they're going to go mine silica in some country. And so it's just horrible. And then if your younger kids are going to hike before school 4 or 5 miles to get water for the family, hike it back, then walk to school, And then one point in the episode we talked about how Mr. Beast actually went over to, I don't know if it was in Zambia, it was another country in Africa, and they dug and found they did 166 wells, fresh water. Wow. And there was a article that we read in the podcast that had come across where a government official, whatever country it was basically saying, how sad is this? Like, we have to rely on a U.S. YouTuber to fly over here and dig and find fresh water for our people, and our own government should be doing it. It's not doing it. Yeah. And even in the case of an apartment complex, here we are in the first world. Right. And this company just deserts, its responsibility, its fiduciary responsibility, whatever. These are people, and now you've got people who normally are paying rent, and they don't have something, and then, you have to rely on a trailer, to show up, or other means, you know, and credit to everybody involved on the, hey, how are we gonna, and it's hard to, like, that's happening here.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
what's going on?
Right across the street from Trash Panda Stadium, you know, and
Yeah.
we had people, you know, donations that came into us is how we housed a couple of those families, and donations that came in, some other churches helped, but it was like, yeah, it was hard to believe that without that, they would have just been, who knows how long they would have went, you know, living in those situations.
I thought I heard you say when you're talking to Joe that you're in other cities too, or is that through ShowerUp Nashville?
That's absolutely. So, you know, ShowerUp, and one of the reasons why it's $12 per shower, we have very low overhead. If you're talking corporate employees, Paul is it, but he also runs Nashville, kind of like I'm doing here. And so we've built a model, and a franchise model, if you call it that. What we did in Huntsville, we realized it worked. So since we launched Huntsville, and I've been doing that, you know, from day one, we've launched in 6 other cities. We're actually launching in 7th city in Columbia, South Carolina, here in a couple weeks. And so what we do is what we built here. We find people, find volunteers, find somebody that's passionate about it, and we have the resources. We have the back end. We know how to train volunteers. We know how to work the systems. We help fundraise. We launch in a city. I mean, because honestly, what we do here in Huntsville could be done in every city. There's people experiencing homelessness all over.
Yeah.
They deserve a shower just like the folks here do. And so, I mean, I'm passionate. I would love to see us in every city, you know, Birmingham, you know, keep going down the line, you know, down the state, wherever there's somebody in need of a shower, we could be there and serve them. Can
you talk about the other cities?
Yeah, so we have Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
We have Tampa Bay. We have Chattanooga. We have Chicago, which we were just training the guy from Chicago this past week. And so we have, where else? Columbia, South Carolina, we're about to launch. And we have Memphis, Nashville, and Huntsville. Yeah. So those are 7 active cities, and we're about to launch the 8th city to start.
You could literally launch in every city in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, and we launch, our launch cost is right at $210,000. And it might sound a lot to some people for their personal bank accounts, but when you talk about partnering with churches and businesses and groups within a city, we don't, not that we're against governments, but that comes with a lot of red tape. So we're not funded at all by any FEMA or any government strings attached. We're private dollars, so we can do what we want to do the way we want to do it, which we believe is the best way, and not be bogged down. But $210,000, that'll buy us a vehicle, a F-250 or a F-150 to tow it with. It'll build us a custom trailer, all the supplies and all the generators, and then everything, gasoline, propane, for an entire year.
3 showers?
3 showers. It's got 3 private showers in it. So, yeah, that's the kind of, we've designed that over time. We're on our, I guess, 7th rendition of the shower trailer. So we've designed that pretty well. But, yeah, we can launch in a city for about $210,000. So if anybody's listening to this in a city, that's what it takes. We can, and then we'll have, you know, not monthly, not one event a month. We're talking 3 to 5 events a week in a city, and that's the cost for, you know, the first year. And after that, it's only cheaper because we don't have to buy the equipment. And so it's a beautiful model.
Is there anyone that you turn down?
City-wise or shower?
No, shower.
Absolutely not. No. So one of our things is everybody gets a shower, no matter what no questions asked. You know, we had one gentleman for a long time came and took showers with us, and we didn't realize until later on he has a house.
Oh, really?
He has his own shower. He came for the community and to be a part, and his situation, he just...
Social interaction.
That was his way to come, and just unique. I'll say it that way. But we had a guy from Madison. He said it was like a $750,000 home in Madison. He couldn't get his... he was renting it. He couldn't get his landlord to fix his water.
Wow.
And so he was a week without water. So he came in 2 times that week. He showered with us. And there's all sorts of people. We don't ask questions. All we ask is, what's your name? We sign up their name. You can give us a nickname. We just need to know who to call next for their shower.
Gotcha.
And we'll welcome you in with open arms. So, yeah, no questions asked. Anybody gets a shower. Our only rule is 1 person per shower at a time, unless it's an adult and a young child, and we can prove that their family. We even let their pets take a shower. So we've had hundreds of dogs. We've had some cats, which I thought cats hated water. We have had
we bathe our cats.
There you go. So we've had a guinea pig, and we've had 1 bearded dragon in the shower. So we're turning into a mobile grooming station a little bit too. But, you know, even those who are, you know, without a home, we don't want their pets to stink either. And we prepare after each person goes in. We're going to go in and prepare it for the next person, so it's sanitized and nice and clean and presentable. But yeah, any person, any animal, bring them on in.
Yeah, it's in no way judging people, right? Because anytime you find yourself judging someone, you have to just step back and say, how does Christ view that person?
Yeah.
Right? How does the Savior do that? But and at times you may be justified, but and there's a different, and no matter how the thing that breaks my heart about people that end up unhoused, I think is that's funny, because I didn't know that you no longer say, like, if someone commits suicide, you don't say that anymore. I learned that when I was talking to a psychologist. He said, we don't say that. I missed the memo. Yeah. What do we say? Like, you die by suicide or suicided. And so, like, even homeless is different, unhoused. But it breaks my heart when someone doesn't have a single friend or a family member to prevent them from that situation.
Right.
And I think, unfortunately, some of it is, you're like me, and like a lot of people who I think are faith based, and whether it's Christians or others, where you're reaching out, right? The second great commandment, love thy neighbor. And in that, usually when you have this mindset of helping others, then you have a network of people. You have good relations with your family members, and it's sad to me. I see people pull away, and they just want to live in isolation, and they stop helping other people. They stop even making friends. Like, I don't have any friends. Well, what has prevented you, like, from doing what anybody can do to make a friend?
Yeah.
Right. And then when if unfortunately someone finds themselves in this situation, you have no safety net in a way. Like, is it? And I've seen it in my own family that those options have been exhausted over years of turmoil and strife when you're trying to help someone and they don't want to be helped. Okay. And then you're like, I'm out. I am no longer a resource for that person. And then little by little, all the other people in that person's life are like, I'm out. I'm no longer a resource for that person. But it's really breaks my heart when you find that situation where it's like, what about is there anybody that you can turn to?
Yeah.
And they say, no, there's nobody, and my family's died or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah. There's so many people.
That's it. And again, not judging the situation, but just also that they don't have that ability. And then it just leads you to be like, oh, well, they've done these things to hurt those relations. We don't know that. Yeah. You don't know that. Yeah. So what do? You do what you can.
Yeah.
To fill a need and fill a gap.
Yeah. Can't do everything, but we can love them, we give them a shower, and I will tell you, there's so many people that I've met, got to sit down and hear their stories that they've not exhausted every resource. They will maybe say that at times, but when you get to the source of things, they truly don't want to be a burden. And so, some of it's a pride thing. They don't even want to admit to their family members or let the family members know that they're homeless. I know people who they have children, and on the other side, there are people that have parents still living, and they don't know. And they put on a face, and they'll call them and check in and FaceTime, just like other things. But they will not. They don't want to let down their family members. And at other times, their family knows, and they're begging them, hey, come stay with me. I have a room. You can stay in my house. But they don't want to be a burden. And even though they wouldn't be, they think, no, well, they have their life. I don't want to mess up their life. So they isolate intentionally. And I meet so many people that's the case, is they don't want to be a burden. They know that they're married, they have kids, they got their life. I'm going to just live out here and suffer with my consequences. Not to put that on them. And honestly, that says a lot about those people. I mean, they have the heart to make that, even though that might be the wrong decision.
Is it kind of like a martyr mentality in a way too? Like, hey, I've done this to myself, and I'm either going to dig out of it or I'm not.
There's some of that too. Yeah. That's like, I'm not going to bring it on anybody else. This is me, and it's up to me to fix it. And, I'm not their problem type of mentality. Yeah.
What do you want to accomplish this year? I don't want to say like just this year. What's your 2026, I'm assuming you did some sort of forecasting. Obviously you're big change, right? Moving away from your
Yeah,
normal
yeah,
job.
definitely.
But what's your goal for this year?
I think well, personally, so we're having another child.
Oh,
So
nice.
in July we're gonna have another boy, so we'll have two. So that's a big step. I'm gonna be intentional in the time I spend with my wife and kids. Obviously, but then professionally, or I guess passionately, if that's a word. My passion. With ShowerUp, definitely want to see us do more here locally, serve more locations. Not necessarily means that I have to do it all because my time is limited, but find another Andrew, find more volunteers, more people who might be retired and have one day a week that they could serve, to add more events, so that, right now all of our showers are during the day from 9 to 12. I want to use, I've said this from the day we started, I want to use the equipment till the wheels fall off. And we'll fundraise for more wheels when they do. But the equipment's not going to get tired. So if we have enough people, build enough volunteers, we could give showers for 3 hours here, have another team come in, and then another 3 hours in another location, and we could keep doing that. So I want to expand locally for sure, within this region, more out in Madison and Harvest and New Hope. We're getting calls for help from people as the need expands. So personally, locally, and then outside of the locally, I want to be able to continue to maybe one more city this year. One city a year would be a good pace, that we identify a city, and maybe not, it takes some time to make it happen. So maybe not necessarily have wheels on the ground, water flowing, giving showers, but identify a city, have the connection, start the fundraising campaign to bring showers to a Birmingham or another area that needs it.
How did you select the cities that you currently went to?
So, not like I just said.
Because they're not all like just so close, right?
Yeah, and it has never been like I'm telling you, Birmingham. It's never been that. It's always been a connection, a phone call, an email. And we get 7-8 emails a week from Boise, Idaho, San Francisco, random cities, and we'll take the phone call. We'll respond to the email. Normally it stops at, well, we need to raise 210,000. Most people, since we're in 7 cities and they see our social media, they think that we're this massive, American Red Cross with millions of dollars that we can just go into a city. We're really grassroots and really small. So we rely on a city to say, okay, well, you want us to come there. Are you passionate about it? Do you want to lead that effort? We'll work with you, but do you want to be the boots on the ground there? Do you have connections? And and then we set up a town hall, and then that brings in churches and businesses and volunteers and people from a city, the rescue missions, those places, and say, hey, we want to come to your city. Do you want us there? Do you have people who can help us? And it's an organic process, and if we get knocked off, then we get knocked off. But if one step keeps happening, we realize, hey, this might actually work within a city, until it finally results in us going. So, most recently we went to Columbia, South Carolina. We met the people there. We toured the area, saw where the people were in need, made sure we could hook up at spots. And we're going to launch there in a couple of weeks with a trailer, 2 trailers actually out there to start. So it's been a God thing, to put it at that. And he'll identify another city and somebody will reach out. The cards will align, and we'll see where that next city lies.
Did you say? I think I heard you say, like your operating cost is about 150,000 around that,
about so
per year,
147 here in
147.
Huntsville.
Yeah.
So that's an Andrew. It's lower when we start because we don't start with a paid staff member like that. But that's a staff member. That's all of our insurance and our equipment fees and gasoline and propane, all the way down to socks and underwear and shampoo and towels. So really, I take pride in that number because that's not a lot for an organization, that serves 10,000 people a year, in our city, providing, thousands and thousands of showers, over 400 events a year, multiple days. We have multiple events at different locations on the same day. So we do a lot with a little, and we're going to continue to, stretch the resources and do the most with it.
Do you have anybody that's trying to shower every day or come to every event?
So we know, because we skip around, and so they're not all close.
Okay.
And so we're unique in that we try to hit different pockets in different areas of town. It'd be really hard for the same person to get to every event. There are a couple that will, if it's within 3-4 miles of each other, they'll be at both events. There are people who are every Thursday, they're there every Thursday. And we love that because I mean, I shower every day, and
well, do they self-police in the sense that if somebody notices that's an every Thursday, and they're there, and then maybe there's 10 people that it's obvious, or they've talked to them that they haven't had a shower in 3 weeks. Are they good at like saying let them go first?
Absolutely. Okay. So one story, just for an example of that, we had a gentleman who was on the list, and his name was L. That was his nickname. People kept coming and taking their name off the list, and I was so confused. I'm like, why do people keep taking their names off the shower list? And I started thinking, is something wrong? Like, is it stinky in there? What's going on? And then finally I realized people were dropping off the list, walking up to me, saying, hey, take me off, take me off. They didn't tell me why. They wanted to make sure that L got his shower because he was at the bottom of the list. He had a job interview to get to, and they wanted to make sure he could take a shower for his job interview. They could wait another week because we'd be back in that location a week from then. They were going to wait.
That's neat.
And found that out. We got him in right away, and everybody, we prayed with him before he left, wished him luck, and it was 3 or 4 weeks and didn't see L. We that's common in the population we serve. Things happen or changes, and we oftentimes wonder and pray, and we never know with a lot of people. But about 4 weeks later, I'm at the drive-thru at a restaurant. I hear a voice, and I'm thinking, I know that guy. Where's he from? I pull up to get my food. It's him. And he's a ShowerUp guy. I haven't seen you because I've been employed. I'm working, beautiful. But yes, so there are people who they're good. They're the best police. They look after each other, help each other, and it's a wonderful close knit community. Believe it or not,
that's really neat. It's really neat that there was that brotherhood or sisterhood or the friendships there. Yeah. Hey, I got a job interview. Like, oh yeah, you go. Yeah. That's really neat. Is there anything we haven't covered yet that you wanted to cover?
No, I think we hit a lot of stuff. Right? So yeah.
All right, let's do a couple fun questions before we go.
Awesome.
And these are just going to be off the top of my head because I do enough of these, and I have one at the end that I love to give. It's a hypothetical. Okay. We'll do some simple ones. Window or aisle if you're flying?
So I used to always do window, but
really?
Now I do aisle because I sometimes get sick. So I definitely want to.
Oh, really?
I want to. Yeah, some motion sickness stuff gets to me sometimes. So I don't want to be trapped in. I want to be able to escape to the bathroom if I need to.
Taking Dramamine or anything?
I've started doing that. It's doing good.
Yeah. I just have to go to the bathroom.
There you go. Yeah.
Actually, the other day I was flying. I fly almost every week, and this guy, I was sitting in like exit row, and then he was gonna be on the window. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay. He's like, unless you want to trade with my buddy who was on the window. It's like, no, absolutely not. Yeah. I've been tricked into that before where you're trying to be nice and help some family, and then you end up on the window. Like, this isn't what I was signing up for. It's a good view, but yeah. Favorite color?
I like blue. UAH went there, and I'm wearing blue, ShowerUp blue. Yeah, blue.
You play golf, by the way?
I've started trying to get into it. It's kind of expensive for me. I don't like the price.
Well, yeah, any hobby can be expensive.
Yeah.
So be careful. Yeah. Like mountain biking or something could be crazy expensive, right?
Yeah.
A country in the world you've always wanted to visit.
Man,
I know you didn't. We talked about bucket lists and all that, but is there one country?
Caribbean stuff, like some of the islands out there, and I probably couldn't even name the island because I hadn't dug deep to which one I got to go to. But love the beach, and so going out to an island in the Caribbean would be pretty nice.
Well, Brandon, dude, if there is enough poverty in those islands, ShowerUp.
Yeah, we got a call. Some of those. We got a call from India not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was like, well, logistically, we had a good call with them, but it was like logistically, we can't pull that off right now.
Those islands, there's no middle class.
Man.
You're deathly poor. I don't know what the right term, and you have the ultra rich, right? Yeah. Like that's the wealthy.
Wow,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
or they're not even there because they don't live there. But then all the shops are for these tourists that show up. That we don't shop at it. Like crazy. Yeah. And then maybe in Barbados, but Barbados may be the only place that has a middle class. Okay. All right. If you had, I know you're a sporting guy. Would you rather have tickets to Game 7 of the World Series, Super Bowl, or Game 7 NBA Finals? And in every case, it's floor seats. Super Bowl, you'd be in a suite, right? But
probably Super Bowl. Just yeah. I feel like that's a bigger one. People probably don't agree, but to say that I went, if you're talking about enjoying the game, NBA, because back and forth, fast pace, floor seats there would be nice. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Now here's an interesting question: dead or alive? If you could play golf and then have a caddy, so if you have 4 hours to play this round with anybody from history, dead or alive, who would you want to have caddy for you and just be able to converse with for 4 hours?
Man, that's a tough one. Who just popped in my mind is Tim Tebow.
Okay.
Because he did a lot with his foundation and starting his nonprofit, outside of football. Obviously, he wasn't that great in the pros, but he did a lot of stuff that I would like to pick his brain on and emulate as far as his foundation did. So.
Maybe he'll become aware of you.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
He was here last year or early this year for something.
Yeah, I think he came to something to speak at the BBC or something like that, right?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. Being an Alabama guy, he's a Florida guy.
He was, his faith and how he carried himself. He's definitely my favorite athlete. And outside of that, what he did outside of sports was pretty neat.
Okay. All right, here's my hypothetical.
Okay.
So you're downtown, Big Spring Park area. Well, you're coming out of the BBC.
Okay.
Let's say you've left a concert. You're with your wife. It's a beautiful May evening. And there's all these other things that are letting out at the same time. Mark C. Smith Concert Hall, Mars Music Hall. I don't know. There's people everywhere. You go over to the parking garage, you get your car, and then you end up driving on that little road in front of the Von Braun, in front of the BBC in that area. You got windows down. You're cranking a song, and you're singing out loud to your heart's content. Whether your wife is joining you or not, doesn't matter. What song are you singing that you want everybody to hear that you are singing along to this song?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough hypothetical question. I think "Party in the USA."
Miley Cyrus,
just because that's one of the ones you can't really be embarrassed about. Everybody knows it, so no matter what, everybody would just think that's a cool guy who has no shame about himself. Like
you can sing it now.
I probably could, but
we'll spare.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, any final thoughts or shout outs?
Man, I think it was good. I loved this conversation. Brought out a lot of things that I didn't even think about. So this is good. I mean, one thing I'd like to just leave it is, everything, my faith in Jesus Christ and Lord. I mean, that's what's happened, in my life and how all this has happened. I could not have planned any of this, from going to UAH and everything I did there to ShowerUp. I didn't lay out a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. Never thought I'd be doing this. But when doors opened, I say yes. And, if they close, then I realize that's not the right one. But the Lord led me on this path, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.